Our next presenter doesn't really need any introduction, but he's going to get one anyway. He's one of the faces of the IVR and brings a wealth of experience from his roadside experience many years ago and today as an IVR Cat 4 tutor. That Cat 4 tutor makes him responsible for training all the other instructors that deliver the training that we know as the IVR VR training. His relationship with the IVR began in 1996, where he joined as an institute member, and today and for a number of years now he's been a member of the National Council and is Vice Chairman.
President.
What?
Vice President.
That was well communicated, he's Vice President. This must be an old script I'm reading. As a council member, as Vice President, he gives up a lot of his valuable time representing the institute and the members and the wider recovery industry. Today he's going to provide an update on the red lamps, and please no assumptions that this is based on the results of the consultation, because it's not. That still sits with PROS, and PROS have sent the information into the DFT, and that's where it sits at the moment. But may I welcome Mark Hartell, Vice President.
Thanks, Leader. Furor, yeah, that's what it is. Thanks, Derek. Good afternoon, guys. We said right hand side. Okay, so look, 30 plus, 35 years in the making. We've eventually been granted permission to use rear-facing red lamps. It'll become important in a moment of that terminology, and I'll give you a bit of an understanding of it. It's interesting, it says red lights on the barcode there, but it's actually red flashing lamps. So 2023, out of the blue announcement from the DFT, recovery operator, breakdown operator was allowed to use red flashing lamps at the roadside. This includes tyre breakdown operators, and we're using the terminology breakdown operator. So that would include the AA, the RAC, anybody that is putting a vehicle roadside to attend a breakdown. To do that, we have to apply for a vehicle special order at this moment in time. That the lamps must have the correct flash rate and be rear facing. So the flash rate is kind of quite wide in its sequence. So, and this is off the top of my head, and I might be just slightly out, but between 60 and 240 flashes, and must be in conjunction with amber beacons. Okay, so that is really, really important, and we must stress that message enough that it cannot just be the use of rear-facing red lamps. They must be in conjunction with amber beacons. So there's another bit of terminology that I've used. Can only be used when the vehicle is stationary, and because we're concerned about that, they must be linked to a functioning interlock switch between the handbrake on the vehicle or the PTO system, so that if the vehicle was to move in any way, those rear-facing red lamps would turn off automatically. They're only to be used at the scene of an accident or breakdown, and we've kind of added a little bit to that. So the Institute of Vehicle Recovery is taking its role within PROS and working with our strategic partners very, very seriously, and we're actually really proud to be a part of this. And when the announcement from the DFT came along about the rear-facing red lamps, it kind of fell to the Institute to say, right, look, where do we go with this? How do we introduce the training? What do we actually do? And a part of that was to work with the other organisations within PROS to make sure that we've got an absolute industry joined up way of doing this. There should be no politics at all with the use of rear-facing red lamps. And so it's important that we work with everybody and that everybody is following the same process. Okay. So very quickly, we as the IVR put together a very quick, simple aid memoir that would be put out to vehicle recovery operators, breakdown technicians, that kind of thing, to allow them to fully understand where, how and what they should be using. Okay, and that is still on our website and is still very much part of the training. We pushed this across to the NTDA, looked at what they were doing as the Tyre Distributors Association, and they adopted that system very quickly. We then we worked within PROS, and PROS also adopted it. And the DFT took that protocol and started to look to apply some of this into future legislation. And realistically, the future legislation will be, if a vehicle is operating or driving showing rear-facing red lamps, there will be a prosecution, okay? And so it's about really policing this to make sure that they are being used correctly. 30 plus years to get this, guys, and we really don't want to make a mistake now. So we've got to get this right, and if legislation is going to be there, then we welcome it. So what has the IVR done so far? Well, almost immediately, we started to upskill our instructors. Okay, so and you're going to get a bit of a brief overview in a moment of what we do already. But we got all of the independent recovery network together in March, just before our AGM, and we upskilled them in the terminologies and the protocols of their use. So I better introduce these terminologies. So we use amber beacons, rear-facing red lamps, and white work lights, okay? And it was important for us to get that terminology across because we use the word emergency lighting a lot and so on and so forth, but it's really important to say amber beacons and when we can use them, rear-facing red lamps and white work lights. So we've looked at the entire spectrum of the emergency lighting that we use. Okay. We're in discussion and cross-skilling the tyre industry in their REACT training programme in these terminologies and protocols, and that's going to be ongoing, that's continuing. We did a full presentation at the AGM around these lights. We can train operators at the side of the road, but what's probably more important at the moment is that the message comes from the top. And what we're appealing to is company owners, directors, managers, to really it's easy just to make sure that your workforce is using these lights correctly, okay? Whatever colour they are, to really get to use them correctly. We are still seeing, and forgive me, but I still see a lot of heavy recovery operators towing trucks, towing buses down the road with amber beacons flashing for really no apparent reason. And we've got to really get a handle on this. If we can't operate our amber beacons correctly, we're never going to get the use of rear-facing red lamps fully right. And so it's really important that we get that message from the top. So I'm appealing to you guys in the room that are fellow recovery operators to make sure that from the top down, you're really talking to your workforces all of the time to get this message across, all of the time. All VR modules now that have a machinery type will have and have had since March the inclusion of how to use our emergency warning beacons, amber, red and white. Okay, so that has been an inclusion within the VR modular training since March. So core modules VRs 1 to 3, pretty standard, but anything that has a vehicle involved in it, this training is now an inclusion. All right. So some of you guys that might be on a week-long course, VRs 1 to maybe 5, they're going to get this hammered at them at every opportunity. So they're going to see the same thing over and over and over again because we really do need to get this correct. But moving forward, we needed to put a standalone, online, interactive, certified emergency warning light training course together. And that we've done. I would say 98%, Mary. We're there. Okay. We're going to run it through the powers that be to make sure that we've got things correct. But it will be available on the IVR website. But it is an inclusion to all, and we have been speaking to the AA, the RAC, other work providers, anybody that is operating a breakdown vehicle, not just on the strategic road network, but on other road networks, to make sure that they have the ability to get this training. Okay? Kind of people who've seen me speak before have heard about the VR0, and we're also in the middle of this, and you know, we've got a set of interactive online training videos that are going to be coming out. They're going to help you with your induction programs, and this will also fit within that system. Okay, but I'm not going to put any dates on it because Chris will give me a hard time, but I'm open by toe show. I'm open by toe show. We will have this sort of with the VR0. The emergency lighting protocol will be out really where we are. Week or two? Mary? I think so. I think so. I think so. So what have we done? So we've also updated our electronic system to enable you as operators to complete that online training, to answer a set of interactive questions within it, prove your identity, work with our system, and then have immediate certification. And this immediate certification will help you with any VSO that you are applying for, and obviously ongoing contractual requirements or any of that goes on. But it will be immediate, so there will not be any waiting for paperwork to be processed or any of that kind of thing. We're in discussion with Apex at this moment in time to adopt a simple drop-down tick box to record the use of rear-facing red lamps. It's massively important that if, and you'll see in a moment, your operators are going to use or apply rear-facing red lamps in the situation that they find themselves in, that it is recorded. We need to collate this information so that we can then start to use that to go back to say, this is why it was important. But there has to be more than one mitigating circumstance as to why you decided to use rear-facing red lamps. It's not just a case of being on the motorway, I'm going to hit the button. You have to give another mitigating circumstance. An example would be that you're on a fast road or motorway and the weather conditions are very poor. And so what Apex is starting to work with is that there will be a very quick drop-down box for your operator to be able to select those reasons. We're working with all of the stakeholders to make sure that we give a bit of an idea of a range of those circumstances that they would be able to select. Yeah, on all of that. Okay. All right, so look, just a real quick overview, very basic overview. What it was found, and what you all know, and what everyone, I'm watching the recovery operators nodding their heads and all the rest of it, is we're still really unsure about how to use amber beacons. An amber beacon is to indicate that there is a slow-moving vehicle, or that it is stationary, or that there are people working in close proximity of that vehicle. Okay? A lot of recovery operators feel that if they just put their amber beacons on, all other road users know what they're about to do as a recovery operator. And that is not the case. And so the training will now go into making sure that they fully understand what it is our amber beacons are doing. Give clear and advanced warning that you are about to make a manoeuvre, and you do that with your indicators. Every road user in the UK has had training and understands and knows what a left-hand indicator is. And if you apply a left-hand indicator to your vehicle, all other road users will expect you to do something else, which is probably to slow down. Use your brake lights. We're using our engines to slow down in a lot of cases, our diesel engines, whereas if we were to just touch our brakes pedals slightly, we would illuminate our brake lights. We're giving clear indication as to what it is that we're doing. When you see that the vehicles behind you are reacting, then you might consider applying your amber beacon, especially if you're slow enough. Okay? Rear-facing red lamps, as I've said, should be limited mainly to hard shoulders and fast-moving carriageways, and used only in conjunction with amber beacons and when the vehicle is stationary. Okay? But just because you're on a fast road does not permit the use, if you like, of these rear-facing red lamps. You need 2 or more mitigating circumstances, as we've said. One of the biggest issues that we're seeing out there, though, is white work lights. And even on the Encyclopedia Facebook now, if you're a part of any of the recovery forums, you'll see guys on there showing off their lights that they've got on their vehicles, and shining white light backwards and saying, well, surely other road users can see me now, and not really understanding that they're dazzling, which is illegal, approaching traffic. Okay? So again, I'm appealing to you recovery operators and breakdown operators in the room. These should only be really used when you're in the yard, or if the road is closed, or at a time where you will not be dazzling approaching traffic. In fact, you probably could cause somebody to drive into you if that is actually happening. We've talked about adding to our PPE list a personal work light, a head torch. They cost no money now. That should be really standard part of PPE. So look, future policing, we're appealing to you. We've got to self-police this. We know, and we're saying that there is going to be legislation, but really the best people to police it are ourselves. We've got to understand if we do this correctly, there wouldn't need to be any policing. But we've got to appeal also to the wider industry, to manufacturers, to make sure that the interlock switches are being applied and the flash rates are correct and that kind of thing. But to auditors and contracts managers and people like that that are looking at businesses and making sure that we've got the relevant training records in place and that they understand how they're to be used. So look, in summary, how many minutes there?
1.
Good. Just want to reiterate how serious the IVR takes its role in PROs and working with our strategic partners. We are proud, very proud, to be a part of this. And, sometimes we're accused of not being political, or sometimes we're accused of being political. Our whole focus within the Institute of Vehicle Recovery is safety. Is the safety of your operators at the side of the road, which in itself will make sure that your businesses are protected and that you are protected. And you may have heard, but there have been some quite high-profile incidents within the recovery industry since Christmas, some fatalities that have happened, okay? And these are not at the side of the road, okay? And so we really do take our job within the Institute very, very seriously indeed, okay? And we will continue to set training safety standards, and we'll continue to fight for those standards, even when we're being accused of not taking it seriously. I was going to not say this, but we told you that EVs will be a problem and they will set on fire, and you won't need rubber gloves and you don't need to disconnect the electrical systems because it will not stop a fire. And we still get accused of not doing it correctly. But we are looking at the real incidents and the real industry needs. We are all frontline recovery operators, apart from Mary.
And me.
And Richard. We will continue to represent the industry professionally, and we will continue to work with industry partners to ensure that the challenges and the standards are met, and we will continue to challenge our own standards. Okay? So rest assured, we'll always take this role seriously. Thank you.
Well done, Mark.
I joke a little bit with Mark there. I know that he can. Well, he could have carried on all afternoon. It's a serious message. And yeah, 30 years, and I often say 30 years because I can go back that far. But really and truly, it's the last 5 years, and the making of this end result is down to Prof. And I won't take any thunder away because Richard can sum all that up at the end of the day.